Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Unadulterated, the podcast where we tell it like it is. We're your hosts. I'm Gerard.
Hello, citizens. I'm Hisham, and we'll be talking about the infuriating double standards that people have.
Now, to clarify, double standards are rules or principles which are unfairly applied in different ways to different people or groups. Right now, when we're talking about double standards in this case and in this situation, we're mainly looking at how we cope with it, how we experience it, and does it actually affect us in any way that we can outwardly see. So for me, like usually double standards, a lot of the times that people always talk about it, it's like between guys and girls, right? A lot of people always treat guys differently, whereas they treat girls differently, different things like that. Like for example, everyone says like, oh, guys can travel alone, no problem. And then when someone says like girls are traveling alone, they're like, what the fuck? Why aren't you traveling with somebody? It's super weird. But like, I don't know how it is here in Egypt too much. So
Well, in adding to that, another example, let's say a guy who goes out and stays until like 3 a.m. with his friends, and then he comes back home, nobody tells him anything, nobody bats an eye. A girl does the same thing. You're like, no, you got to be home by 11 or by 9. You're like, why? Because you're a girl. So we're like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. They'll be like, okay, why? Just because. You see, it's like people just follow these double standards sometimes, not because they want to be cruel or just want to do it, no, because that's all they know, maybe.
yeah, I mean, a lot of it stems from parentage. Like your parents do
Yeah.
it, and then their kids do it. So like it's a, I feel like it's kind of like a generational thing where
Mm-hmm.
people have just kind of done it throughout time, and you just kind of pick up on it. No one really explains it to you. You just kind of
Yeah.
do it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't get it. Why would you do that? Especially here.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, I've seen it a lot, right? And one major aspect of it, other than going out, was dating.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, from that perspective, it's always like, women or people they think should marry right away, or, they just say, oh, you get married once, or you meet somebody once and you get married. It's like, wait, what? It kind of sounds like an arranged marriage to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they actually, that gives me two more ideas related to that. If you talk about dating, like if a woman gets married and then has a divorce, I mean, it happens. But people tend to look at it as like a shameful thing. Oh, how can she have a divorce? And then it's like a terrible thing. Like people, it happens. Humans get together, they disagree, they get separated. You don't have to judge someone, but unfortunately, throughout many situations, they put the judgment on the woman. I mean, a man could make a mistake or a woman could make a mistake. They're both humans, but unfortunately, it's all, as we're saying, double standards. And related to dating as well, I don't want to be like branching out into so many examples, but it just gave me another idea. Even to start dating, if a woman wants to tell a man that she has feelings for him, they're like, no, she can't do that. They're like, why? They're like, oh, she would be selling out her dignity. Okay,
What the fuck? Okay.
selling out her dignity. That doesn't make sense. I mean, like, oh, the guy has to be the one that begins, and the guy has to be the one that in a conversation he talks the most. I'm like, okay, well, even though I've been here for 20 years and I am Egyptian, but still, I don't get that. It doesn't really make sense on a human perspective. Sorry that
Yeah.
I'm saying that.
Accusing everyone of being like subhuman, are we?
Yeah. No, no, no. It just doesn't, it's not logical, like if you want to think. But again, if we're going to discuss what's logical and what's not, that differs from person to person, of course. But we're talking from what would be humane. Yes, humane is what I'm looking for. That's the
Mm,
word I'm looking for.
yeah. I mean, like a lot of it also probably stems from culture, like
Hmm.
exposure to different parts of the world and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Me being from the West, or what we would call the West, I've seen things differently, right? I grew up
yeah,
15 years in the U.S., and that was, I had very different things happen to me. Like, dating was normal,
yeah,
premarital sex just happened everywhere, that kind of thing. It was kind of like a norm, where
yeah,
people would go out and get jobs like 15, 16. They would be
yeah.
dating, have like these serious relationships or something at 16. It's like, wait, what?
Hmm.
What the hell? We're not even old enough to like really support ourselves, right? But then you come to
Yeah,
like high school, 18 years old, finishing high school, graduating and stuff like that. And this is a time where people get thrown out. You know, in the U.S., people just like some of the parents are like, all right, you're 18 now, you graduated high school, go out, get a job, and live on your own.
Like fend for yourself now.
Literally, like what the fuck? Like personally, when that happened to a friend of mine, I was like, holy shit, that's kind of awkward. And I thought about it myself, like, would I be able to do that? And like, with shame, I can't. I didn't. Like
Mhm.
at that age, I was like, yo, I'm so sheltered. Like I don't even know what the fuck to do. You
Wouldn't know
know?
where to start.
Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
you're 18 years old.
Hmm.
Apparently, over there in the West, that's considered being an adult, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
I know.
you can make your decisions at that point, and
Hmm.
you can do whatever you want, and everything is your responsibility. But here, it's very
Hmm.
different. People still will live with their parents for very long periods of time
Yeah.
until you get married and stuff like that. And people
Yep.
get laughed at, like in the States, for that.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Well, yeah, it's different from place to place. I mean, but I'd say there are pros and cons to everything. Like pros to starting to maybe be independent at a younger age,
Mm.
but also cons that maybe going out at such a young age, there are some things you might not be able to do, like you mature too early, maybe,
Yeah,
as
like
one
paying
perspective.
taxes.
Yeah,
Like, how the fuck
probably.
do I pay taxes?
You're like, I don't need this pressure now. I gotta worry about my SATs.
I mean, like that was the craziness that we had to experience. Like when I moved here, I was still like 15, right? So I didn't actually
Oh,
fully
okay.
experience that getting kicked out of the phase, getting kicked out of the house phase. Like
Oh, okay.
that never happened. So
Yeah.
here, like I've moved from one sheltered place to another, and then here,
Hmm.
like slowly, like I wouldn't say I was given more freedom. I just explored it more here,
Oh.
because like I
Hmm.
was just at that age where I just wanted to go out more, meet more people, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But who didn't do that? Girls. Like when I met people here, man, like I was what, like 15, right? That's what I said. 15 years old. This was
Yeah.
around what, grade 10, I think. So I'm out
Okay.
there, right? I'm in my grade 10 class. I'm sitting there. I'm talking to
Hmm.
girls, and all the guys are staring at me. They're like, "Yo, who
It's
is this
magic.
guy?" Literally, like I'm not shitting you, man. Like after I talked to this one girl, her name was Christine, and
Okay.
obviously I do not look Egyptian. 100%, I am foreign, right? So I walk into that classroom, everyone looks at me. I'm like, oh shit, I'm the center of attention now. So I take a seat, and this girl strikes up conversation, like fucking perfect English. I'm like, oh damn, I'm like, there's no difference now, right? So she starts talking to me. She's like, hey, where are you from? I'm like, yo, I'm from the States. This happened. I just moved here. I really don't know what's going on. And this is really awkward for me, just like, not knowing anything. So she's like, yeah, I'm Christine. If you need any help or anything, just, let me know. I was like, cool, good to know.
Cool.
So by the end of that
Nice.
class, that was English class, right?
Yeah.
And teacher comes in, tries to pronounce my name, completely butchers it. I'm like, you know what? Like, fuck it, I'm used to it.
Yeah.
People in the States can't say my name right. So like,
Seriously? Wow, that's
yeah,
surprising.
it's, come on, man. A lot of people can't pronounce like very simple words.
Didn't anybody watch 300? Gerard Butler. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, right.
I mean, what's so okay? It
It's
happens.
nuts. But anyway, you get this. So like two or three guys at the end of the class literally walked up to me. So mind you, that girl that I talked to, Christine, spoke to me in like, pretty good English, right? So
Okay.
I'm expecting these guys to, kind of be the same. So one walks up
No.
to me, total opposite. He comes up, he's like, "Hey, my name's Ahmed." I'm like, "Sure, okay. How you doing?" He's like,
Okay.
"Can I ask you a question?" I was like,
Just go
"Okay."
ahead.
And he's like, "How do you talk to girls?" What? Like, I legit just looked at him. I was like, "What do you mean talk to girls? You just say hello, introduce yourself. It's all good." And like him
Yeah.
and the other two guys were like, "What? What? That doesn't happen." I was like, okay, that was like legit one of the first times that I had encountered some form of like difference in cultures, right? In the way that
Yeah.
people experience it. So I'm sitting there. It's apparently, back then I didn't know that it was
Hmm.
very awkward and difficult for people to walk up to a girl and
Yeah.
talk. And a lot of the times I've discovered that at that time, like a few months later, I discovered that the girls that were very friendly with the guys always got called bitches or something. I was like, what?
Yeah. 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 It's just so much like I don't know, like people put up these walls of and so much like things you have to do in order to talk to a girl, or and even if they go too much or too hard too fast, that's what they make it seem like.
Hmm.
I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. Like I never got to understand it. You're asking the wrong person if you want to explain, but yeah, it took me a long time to try to get that. But I guess it's just as we said, it's a cultural. It's how every culture has its own way of functioning, own way of doing things. So yeah, they have a norm where the norm is girls can't just go up to guys and talk, and guys when they talk to girls, usually it's preferred that they're the ones that start the conversation. But now in this case, they'd be too nervous to even talk to girls sometimes and not
Yeah.
know how to approach them. So maybe it's afraid of what people think, which is something that a lot of people have here. They're too caring about what others think. They're that even some people's lives are based on that, believe it or not. Like just like when if we're since we're talking about double standards, when a woman gets married or a guy gets married, they're like, you're not married until now. Oh, what will people think? What will people think? Like, you hear that sentence a lot in a lot of situations, not just marriage. So yeah,
Yeah.
that could be part of it as well. So of course, any place in the world, if you since you were saying you were 15, so I guess that was middle school, high school,
Yeah.
yeah. So any teenager would also have that in mind, being afraid of judgment and being afraid of what their classmates think. That's normal. So, but here you have that, and then you have the culture. So maybe it's times 10. So it
Mm.
makes it even tougher on them in a way. That's just my interpretation. It's not necessarily right or wrong. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, in both our cases, we're just speculating and just seeing how we experience this stuff from our perspectives. I mean,
Yeah.
how did you experience it?
Uh, well, I don't know. Well, the first one, I think I started here grade 6 or 7 since I came back from the U.S. Well, yeah, I used to be in the U.S. for about 7 years. I went in 1994, came back in 2000, and I've been here ever since. Um, well, all I had as a background was what I knew in elementary school in the U.S., and it was much easier. Of course, I socialized with everybody, even though, of course, like a means of measuring it because I was a kid. But still, like my background, I was what I knew in the U.S. and what I knew from television, what I knew from any kind of media. Then I came here, and things are completely different. The way people joke, the way people talk, and then
Hmm.
when I try to understand the humor, even if I understand it literally, I don't get it. And they're like doing all this stuff, and I'm like, huh? Okay, then how do you do this? And I'll be honest, I've had real issues trying to deal with like women in school through many years because of the cultural difference. And then some people are like, oh no, you come back here, you get used to it, you change. I'm like, no, it's not that easy for everyone, man. It isn't. Like even though like, oh, you're Egyptian, you'll pick it up. No, my friend, it's not that easy. It's not that easy at all. But of course, it's a matter of choice if you want to go deeper into it or not, or accept the differences in culture and want to be part of that. It's up to you. But again, it differs from person to person. It differs from how people deal with it. I'm not going to say everyone follows that or everyone's the same because I've seen that in college. When I was in MassCom, there were all kinds of people. There were people that would, like, just like you said, they would talk to you from day one, from the first minute, and you just click, and it's really easy. Other
Yeah.
people, they would be super shy. You go up to them and talk to them, it's like they just encountered an alien life form.
Like they put their head back into their turtle shell.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'll be like, what the hell's going on? I just said hi. And other people, just because I say hi every day, they get creeped out and block me on Facebook. I'm like, okay. Yeah, I've encountered that in college. I was like, wow. All
Oh
right.
man, that's
So
extreme.
yeah. Yeah, man, I've seen all kinds of things in college. College really gave me like a crash course in a lot of things. Um, let's say there are also like university specifically. Okay, I'm not saying this to offend all women. I'm just saying this is what I experienced. Well,
Mhm.
a lot of women in college, they go there to get married. They go there to hunt down
Yeah, dude.
men to
Holy
marry
shit.
them. Yeah. So we're kind of talking about the how like men become friends with women, women become friends with men. Like when I tried that many times, 70% or 60% of the time, the girl would think I'm being nice. Not being just being nice and think, oh, he likes me, and I don't. I'm just being your friend. So
Yeah.
yeah, it made things difficult for me. So yeah.
Which reminds me, you ever see a movie called Basic Instinct from back in the
Sounds
90s?
very familiar. Very
Oh yeah,
familiar.
there's like a really famous scene in there where like the main character just kind of like has her legs crossed and then uncrosses
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know
Yeah,
it.
so like, so that movie, that's basically what that reminded me of. What you were saying about like women going to college to get married and stuff. I did
Okay.
encounter that right while I was here. I encountered that when I went to university myself.
All
So
right.
I did meet this one person. Like I didn't realize she was totally serious about it, but
Oh.
I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a total joke. But she was like, "Oh yeah, I really don't care about my major because I'm just gonna get married." I was like,
Oh
some great
man.
sarcasm. And then like, lo and behold, by the time we graduated, like within
Excuse
a
me.
couple months or something, she's hitched. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my god, was she serious?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, I
It's so
mean, there's
strange.
like, and related to that, that's just the goal of a lot of people here. I mean, when I was taking my course at AUC, teaching course, it was mostly females and only me and two or three other guys. 90% of them are like married with kids. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You could get married, kids, do whatever you want. But it's because also the culture kind of dictates that. A lot of people are really, what I believe, are really driven by culture so strongly that they don't try to think outside of the box, or they don't know how to think outside of the box
Mm.
because, yeah, they're just very conservative of what they know, either because they've never been exposed to something else, or when they're exposed to it, it's really hard for them to sway away from it. I'm just repeating myself, I know, but I'm just saying it just goes back to that point again.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that also conjures up another question in my head. Like, if
mhm,
we see, or if people here, or just in general, people see dating that way, right?
okay.
Then how would they see, like, would they treat marriage the same way? Like, if you're a single guy, for example, and you get divorced, is it your fault, or is it like the woman's fault? You know, because I've heard at one point someone told me like there was this really messy breakup or something, and they were married or something,
Okay.
um, and it just everyone like kept blaming the girl. I was like, why would you do that? There's
Yeah.
like two parts to every story, you know, and automatically it's like, oh, she wasn't a good wife, she wasn't this. I'm like, what the fuck constitutes a quote unquote good wife,
Yeah.
right? Like apparently that old adage where everyone's like, oh, women stay in the house, they make babies, they take care of the kids, they make food, and they do. I was like, what about fucking work? And the guy's like, just looking at me, he's like, work, a woman work. I was like, bro,
Yeah.
what? Like I've
Yeah. I mean,
encountered people like that, and I was so shocked that people like
yeah.
that still exist.
Dude, I mean, get this. Like, I encounter people that have another way of thinking. They're like, "Oh, when I get married, I have to marry somebody that's younger than me." I'm like, "Why?" He's like,
Wow.
"So." He didn't say this literally, but this is what he meant. In a
Mm.
way, he would look at her as being inferior, where he would mold her as a personality he wants her to be like, so she could be obedient and follow what he wants. And I'm like, "Holy shit!" Okay, so
Wow,
yeah,
that's
that
really disturbing.
yeah, that happens. But like thinking about this stuff, it gets me curious how certain trends came to be in a certain country, not just here. It goes back to history. It goes back to a lot of things.
Mm.
Maybe certain cultures being introduced from other countries. Maybe something that happened that led to this. Like everything has its own origin and source. Some may be known, some may not be known. Where people just come to do something and they're like, where did this come from? So that's an important question I hope many people would ask, and I ask myself, why do I do certain things? Why do I talk in a certain way? Why do I walk in a certain way? Blah blah blah. So yeah, I'm just saying that brings that question to mind as well.
Yeah, like the why behind it, like the reasoning and everything. A lot of the times, people don't really tell you that. It's like, why do you
Yeah,
feel that women shouldn't, work, or why do you think women shouldn't do whatever like a guy can do, right? Like
yeah.
for example, um, what was it? Not IT work, engineering work, right?
Hmm.
Being a field engineer, for example, it's like,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, like a petroleum engineer, for example, like why can't women be petroleum engineers? And every time, like back in university, there was the petroleum engineering department, and it was a very small group of kids because it was still starting out, and they were going to be, I think, the second or first group to graduate in that major. So
Hmm.
there was a lot of girls there. So I was like, all right, that's not bad. That's cool. They're going to be engineers. And then one guy comes up and he's like, nah, man, they're just doing this to have an engineering degree. I was like, okay. Apparently, it's like a facade type of thing. You get this degree, you never use it, but people will call you or look at you in a certain way
Yeah,
that gives you
prestige.
like, yeah, exactly, prestige, right? It's the same idea with like calling people doctors. Like, Are you
Yeah.
actually a doctor, or are you a
Exactly.
PhD holder?
Yeah.
You know, like that's the thing. And a lot of
Hmm.
people just go out there and get that thing just to put it on a wall in a plaque and have that title, right?
Yeah,
And this
man.
guy was basically telling me that these women that are working in petroleum engineering, or not working, studying it, are going to end up at home doing absolutely nothing, wasting the degree, or being like, an
Yeah.
office worker, a
Yeah,
paper
I was about
pusher.
to say. I was about to say, yeah.
You know, I was like, why can't they go out and really live their life? You know,
Hmm.
like I know a person who's, you know, I've known this person for quite some time, and like this person's mentality is always like, the moment a girl goes out by herself, it's like, oh, she's gonna go sleep with a dude. It's like, what? It's like, she's gonna go meet her friends or something, or this person's gonna go meet their friends. It's like, okay, where the hell did you
Yeah.
conjure up that idea that this person's going out to like sleep with somebody? What if it's just to
Yeah.
go see a fucking movie? It just makes no sense.
Yeah. It's it's strange, man. Well, oh yeah, about the part you were saying they're just getting a degree just for that. I
Mm,
remember when, like, I always see engineers, they're in the field and like they're out there, and I was asking, okay, what about the female engineers? Well,
mm.
where are they? Like, I visited these places and I never seen a single woman around. They're like, no, it's not appropriate. I'm like, why? They're like, it's not appropriate. That's all they kept saying. I'm like, and they thought I was acting stupid, asking a stupid question. I'm like, I'm not. Why? They really don't have a reason. They just said it's not appropriate. I was like, okay. I just say okay because you don't. There's not. It's not really going to get you anywhere if you like arguing doesn't get you anywhere. Sometimes you just understand where it's coming from, and you're like, okay, you to each their own. You have your own way of doing things. I have my way of doing things.
Yeah.
So yeah, so in my head, let's agree to disagree. Not in real life because it won't happen because that other side won't understand
Yeah, that's like the
what you're
worst
trying.
part about it.
Yeah, yeah.
They just choose to ignore it, or like they continue living in their own little reality. And,
Hmm.
with the way the world is now, after all of the madness that we've seen in the beginning of the year, everything
Yeah.
is, kind of changing. You know,
Hmm.
Even in past years, things have kind of changed for certain groups of people. Um,
Hmm.
Unfortunately, the truth can't be said about other groups, but some minority groups are starting to get attention.
Yeah.
Um, I know we're probably gonna catch a lot of flack, and probably like no one's gonna fucking listen to us because we're gonna at this point I'm gonna say like the people I'm talking about from the past are like the LGBTQ community. Got to say it
Yeah.
proper for the alphabet people, you know what I mean? So,
Okay.
but anyway, like let's face it, in the West, namely the U.S., since I don't really follow a lot of news in Europe or something for this particular issue. Um, in the U.S., people of that community have started to, get more recognition. Um, they got some rights and everything, and that to
Yeah,
me,
more.
whether you disagree or not, to me that says progress. Progress in terms of people finally realizing there's something else.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're trying to throw onto this person. Like I remember way back in university, um,
Hmm.
I was very anti
Yeah.
LGBTQ. I was
Okay.
like, I was just a really terrible person when it came to talking about this kind of stuff. And I'm not gonna say any of it for
Yeah.
for the sake of this. But like, what happened from that time to now? Um, it's basically like my own personal understanding of that situation, or of
Okay.
the type of people that are in there, like
Hmm.
understanding it. And like I remember one guy was telling me like, oh, it's how can it be a genetic thing? It's a choice. It's a choice. I'm like, how can it be a choice if like you're physically born with certain features that are not
Hmm.
related to a particular gender?
Okay.
Like I don't want to like go out there and say it explicitly, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how can you say that it's a choice at that point? you know,
Hmm.
because it's something that just kind of happened to your body, and
Yeah.
it's you just have to understand that fact that things happen that we don't understand, and in order to progress, we have to first understand it and then make a comment on it.
Mm.
You can't just go full blown into something and be like, oh, this is bad because XYZ, you know? So why is it bad? Your XYZ is just like, dogma that you've recited from like the last 15 years, or like you've learned from your parents or something, and you're just reciting it over and over again without actually encountering the people sometimes. Now,
Yeah.
I know I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack for saying that kind of stuff, but when you think about it, a lot of arguments, like I'm pretty sure the reason you don't argue a lot is because it's very hard for people to actually understand other points of view. You
Yeah.
know, like you reach a brick wall kind of.
Yeah.
So
Like you usually assess the situation. It shows what kind of person you're talking to. You'd be able to realize, is this person open to other ideas or not? Or so why would you use your energy, just like you said, why would you use your energy on a brick wall? You're never going to move it. You're not strong enough to move a brick wall.
yeah,
So just avoid the brick wall, find something else that's movable. It's kind of like an unstoppable force and an immovable object. I don't think they're going to go anywhere.
Bruce Lee
So
would say otherwise.
probably. Well, yeah, yeah, but it's not easy. I mean, in this regard, if you're going to talk about be water or be water, my friend, it's not going to be that easy. But it's not impossible either. I mean, debates are great, but in the right context, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean debates. Well, let's face it. When we say debate here, at least from my own experiences in the country, debate just means arguing and a lot of yelling.
Yeah, I
Like
know.
there's really no back and forth about
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
people think it's like a competition where who's louder or who's gonna win, who's gonna have the last word. That's not
Yeah.
what a debate is.
I mean, that's the only way, in my opinion at least, like this is the only way that you can really progress. And, you know, I'm not saying I'm with or against anything. I'm just saying that, like, in order to comment on something, I think you need to understand it first, or
True.
understand where something, where like the origins of an argument, like where they're coming from. You know,
Hmm.
that's, in my opinion, and like, I think that's the best way to really start, like, if you want to call an argument or a debate or something, it's you want to know what you're talking about. You can't just
Hmm.
go in there ass first and be like, yeah, saying whatever,
Yeah.
which is 90% of what happens here sometimes, unfortunately. But yeah, I feel like if people just learned more or asked certain questions more often, I think people would be more willing to discuss or talk about certain topics like that.
Well, taking that step to even be open to the opposite opinion is it takes a lot of, maybe courage is the word, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of, like, it's not easy to be that flexible.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that should be taught actually at an early age for people to start having that as their norm. But
Mm-hmm.
if you have somebody that's been used to something for, let's say, they've been alive for 40 years or 30 years, and then you tell them you got to start changing your mind, it's not impossible, but it's really hard for them to start thinking that I should think about the other, that I should really research this. Okay, even if, like, in the regard we were mentioning, the LB, okay, I don't want to say, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, I'm sorry. And or with any other religion even, like, I've known people that have studied the Torah, studied the Bible, and studied the Quran, all three, just to have a good understanding of all three. And honestly, that's really awesome that you're
Mm-hmm.
really trying to open up your mind to other ideas and beliefs and know where these beliefs came from, know what they're about, know why people think in a certain way. I mean, that really expands on your thought about how other people are like. I mean, we're all people at the end of the day, made of flesh and bone. We just
Yeah.
maybe live differently, but also we live the same in different ways, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, like if you come to study cultures more and more or observe them, you'll be surprised that, as yes, there's so much difference, but then you're like, hey, this seems familiar. Something is familiar about this. Like the most basic concept, family.
Mm-hmm.
Family exists everywhere, and like the idea of people coming together and having that sense of family, that it has so many different forms, but it's the same idea at the end of the day. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like family plays a huge role in everything, especially in the
Hmm.
beginning years. When you're just getting out on your feet and like making your own opinions and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, for me, a lot of my opinions were not actually my own
Hmm.
until I think I reached, I want to say like 16, 17 or something. but at the same time,
Okay.
like I can't fully remember. Like I was learning, I was progressing from that stage forward. From 17 onwards, 18 onwards, I started like reading a little bit more, thinking a bit more, trying to learn more and learn as much as I could.
Mm.
And that's when I discovered that a lot of the things that I was thinking about just were in my head because of my family. You know,
Yeah.
you know how that saying, or I can't remember if it's a saying or like actual fact. Honestly, I don't remember. Where kids are like very young kids are like sponges. They just absorb
Yeah.
knowledge
Yeah.
or things
That's
like that.
true.
Yeah, so I
Hmm.
feel like kind of the beginning of your life, and let's say like the beginning of your life can be very dependent on a lot of things.
True.
Obviously, it varies from person to person. Personally, for me, it was
Yeah.
around like 17, 18, right? So like
Hmm.
that's the beginning, and then from that point forward, I just kind of learned more. And like that thing you were talking about, courage to just talk about things. A friend of mine saw that I, at one point in my life, I lacked a bit of that, and
Okay.
he said like, "Yo, you know what? Take this," and he gave me a book, and he was like, "Take this, read it, and see if you can learn from this person's example and see if you can't like exude that." So I was like, all right.
Hmm.
And the book he handed me was the autobiography of Malcolm X,
Oh, I read
and
that. It's a
it's
great
an
book.
amazing book. It's like
Yeah.
if you guys that are listening have not read it, you should go out and read it because it is amazing. Like a person
Yeah.
can change. It's literally what we're talking about now. Like a person can be raised in a certain way and then suddenly just change like
Yeah.
multiple times, and then obviously they grow to be a more complete person. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say really complete because like no one's ever quote unquote complete, but I mean like
Yeah.
in terms of growth, you're
Hmm.
always adding more knowledge to the future. And like
You
when
know,
I
like,
read, mhm.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, no, I was gonna say like when I read the book, like it dawned on me that like what my friend was saying was true because I was kind of in my own little turtle shell and I was afraid to take
Oh.
a step forward and like really do things, get
Hmm.
out of my shell and like make a decision or take a stance on something. I was always kind of
Yeah.
like a reactive person or a person that
Oh.
observed from the outside.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Right. Like more on the receiving end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say related to the example you used with Malcolm X and the possibility of change. Well, yeah, I mean, in relevance to that, human beings or adults, we tend to always keep discovering ourselves to begin with. Like people would say, "Oh, I already have my personalities developed at 16 or at 20 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and this is me." Well, once you start your 20s, or it differs from person to person, but at least most people in their 20s, they're still discovering who they are. And in their 30s, they might still be discovering a lot of aspects on who and what they are. You might have a certain goal and then it changes. Okay, let's say, for instance, fine, I'll use the example of when I was a kid, I wanted to be an artist, I wanted to draw things.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably until I was 10 years old. Then I was like, oh, I like dinosaurs. I want to be a paleontologist. That lasted until I was like 15, 16. And then I was like, I don't know what I want to be. And then bit by bit, I was like, oh, I'm going to go in English and be a teacher. And I was like, no. And then pharmacy, it was a lot of changes. I mean, who would
Yeah.
imagine? And at the end of the day, I became an actual teacher. And then after that, I was like, oh, voiceover. I'm a voice actor as well. Like, if you came into my 8-year-old self or 10-year-old self and told them all this, they'll be like, what are you talking about? I don't get it.
I just
So
want to play some
people,
video games.
yeah, so people change. People change a lot, and they change their ideas, and sometimes you have life altering ideas, like where you review the basis of your being, and there's nothing wrong with that. It happens,
Yeah.
and that's why we're human. We're interchangeable beings. We're not meant to stay the same.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like we're our capacity for learning and understanding is like amazing, but that's
Yeah,
only if we're willing to do
exactly.
so. Like
Yeah.
the willingness to do anything and the willingness to change is like one of the scariest things anyone can do. Um,
Hmm.
I found it's very hard for people to accept that they could be wrong or their views
Yeah.
could be different or well not different, but like it could be I don't want to say closed, but like I don't have another way to put it. It's like their views are less widespread than others.
Yeah.
It's not as open to interpretation or as open to well, interpretation was not the word I wanted. It's not open to absorption, right? They're not willing to
Okay.
absorb a lot of knowledge, or
Yeah.
willing to absorb the other side's story. To
Hmm.
them, it's like cut and paste, black and white. It's like, this is right, this is wrong. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, sure, if you want to continue living like that, then go ahead. Just try not to shove that down other people's throats, because like
It's
that's just
it's
bad.
actually, if you use it in a metaphor with nature, meaning, let's say the human body, there are certain organisms that are allowed in and out of the human body.
Hmm.
Others, once they go in, the body is like, holy shit, this is a virus, or this is a, sorry, I brought up a virus with the coronavirus. I don't mean that. But anyways, okay. Or this is a bacteria, this is not allowed, so it goes crazy and attacks it. So the way probably people deal with things as a defense mechanism, once there's something foreign, even if it's not a virus, they think it's a virus and they attack it. So maybe that's how people deal with things. Maybe it's out of that fear of the unknown that they're afraid to be harmed. They're afraid
Yeah.
of pain that doesn't exist, or it might exist, but they can't differentiate between what's actually harmful and what's not, that is foreign to them.
Hmm. So in
That's
that
why,
case, like, it'd be more
yeah,
like a poison,
yeah, in a way,
you
in a way.
know?
That's why, just like you said, it's better to question things first before rejecting them right away.
Yeah, like, I don't know. When was the first time you questioned anything? Like, literally anything?
Like basic principle or belief or idea.
Yeah. Like, for example, like if you were
Uh,
told to do something, or like you were told that life was supposed to be a certain way, or like your life was supposed to be a certain way.
mhm.
When was the first time you like questioned something like that?
That's a good question. Well, what comes to mind now is maybe when I was in high school, there were, without mentioning what it is, there was a certain um, race of people that people don't like here
Hmm.
in Egypt, and they're like, no, don't deal with them. They're all bad. They're all terrible. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah. And I used to think like that, and I'm like, no, oh yeah, I hate them too. I'm not going to deal with them. But then I came into contact with someone online, and then I'm like, okay, why don't I just talk to him normally? He's talking to me normally, and he's sharing music, and we're not doing anything. It's not like we're attacking each other. I mean, what's the point anyway of attacking him? Like at first we were just insulting each other for no reason. I'm like, I don't even know this guy. I'm like, why am I insulting him? And I don't even know him. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, okay, let me just try talking. And we did, and it was cool, and nothing happened. We kind of became friends online, and I was
Hmm.
like, okay, I gotta change my way of thinking. Like the important thing is when you go off on your own and try to experience things on your own from your own perspective, that's important. Where you develop your own take on things, which I believe is important, which also stems back to how much culture and parents get involved with their kids. I'm not saying don't get involved, but I'm saying also give them space to develop their own ideas,
Yeah.
develop their own take on things. Don't always force, just like you're saying, shove down their throat the same ideals and same ideas. What if they want to have their own ideas? That
Do you
should
think
be an
that's
option.
do you think like that entire idea of like, forcing someone or shoving it down their throat to like be a form of control?
Yeah, I guess some people might have it that way. Some people just it's out of habit, or they think that they're doing their best for their children by doing that.
Hmm.
Um, but as I said, it's a balance. Like you should. I'm not saying don't get involved with your kids. Of course, you got to be involved. That's what a parent does. But again, don't get too involved. But at the right age.
Yeah. I mean, like that happens a lot, and that brings me back to that idea of like in the West, kids getting shoved out their house at like 18
Yeah.
sometimes, so on and so forth. It's like, okay, well, you bonded with the person up until 18, and now their views are totally different. So in
Hmm.
some regards, that I wouldn't say like it's helpful or like it's eye opening or something, but I feel like that kind of jumpstarts the person that you know that experiences that. It kind of jumpstarts their brain where like, okay, now I have to do X, Y, Z, and like try and figure things out. It's kind of like
Hmm.
survival mode, right? But
Yeah.
then what do you fall back to? You don't have anything except for what you learned for the previous 17 years, right?
Yeah.
Everything that happened in your own household, like everything that you've experienced. So when that happens, like you're 19 now, you're out on your own, you have a job, you have a girlfriend and stuff, and all of a sudden you're like, we got to do this. You should be doing this. Why? Because,
It's because it's all we know. Yeah.
yeah. So like, I feel that
It's,
there should be some cultivation of,
exactly.
just trying to, open up people to other ideas and whatnot as a child. Um, I feel like
Cult-
school is a good way to do that, but dude, it's kind of dangerous in some places to do that.
yeah, true, true. But it's true. Like I was actually going to get a bit of a connection to school where, like, for instance, if you gave someone, I don't want to say a math problem. I'm terrible at math. Let's say a science problem or something in psychology they don't know anything about, and you're like, you want them to write about it from their own imagination. That's something you can't do for students, let's say, that are in grade 10 and they've never done that before. It'll
Hmm.
be extremely difficult. And there are people, and I've met actual students that are like, okay, we have no imagination. Tell us what to do, because that's
Yeah,
all they know. That's what they're used to. So as you said, it should be cultivated. So if it's cultivated from an early age, that people have the ability to create ideas out of nothing, create something out of nothing, that's tough, but not impossible. But that's a big thing. That takes a long time, or even if it's not a long time, that takes. It's better to start at an early age rather than a later age when you want to
hmm.
cultivate that concept
Oh
of
yeah,
being able to create something out of nothing. And once you have that, that will also make, I guess, make you open to ideas that are, because you're already used to something that's created out of nothing, or you're used to ideas being thrown around or thrown at you, but you're not just following a standard. It's not, you're not used to, oh, this is just ABC, just like you said, this is just XYZ. Like some things in life, yes, can't be changed. Like, okay, how is a building built? Of course, there are certain
yeah.
steps to do that, but this is not building a building. Humans are not buildings.
Hmm.
Humans are humans. We have abstract thought. We're not apes. I mean, we're similar to apes, but we're not apes. That's
Questionable, but
why.
okay.
I mean, that's where people like get confused, I guess. I mean, humans, we have much more malleability in
Hmm.
our minds and in our abilities to learn and to expand. I mean, the proof of that is how far humanity has come in the past. How long has humanity been around? What, a million years? Um,
Who knows?
so yeah, so for that much time, people have progressed. I mean, we used to ride horses and be on horseback and ride camels and stuff, but now we have automobiles, we have airplanes, we have the atomic bomb. We don't know what we're going to have in the next 2,000 years. So that's because we're building on what came before. But those who came before that invented these kind of things thought. They used the
Yeah,
simple idea of thinking. So without thinking, the world would be, I don't know where it would be.
like that like that idea or that concept is just like it makes me wonder. Like all these things that we've experienced or read about in history books.
Hmm.
Doesn't it make you feel like sometimes we were smarter back then?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, in a way you could say, because we had to put more effort to do things, so therefore you used your head and you used your physical self as well more. Like
Hmm.
today, with the abundance of information we have in the internet, you'd expect people to be geniuses, but no, on the contrary, it's so much information that people don't understand its value anymore, maybe, and that's one of the reasons why they don't really have access to it. And I've met many situations in my life where people are like, "Oh, how did you learn this? How did you know that?" Something called the internet. You're like, wow, we didn't know the internet has so much stuff. It does. We just need to know how to use it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we know how some people use it. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
But like actually when it comes to schooling and stuff, like it's one of those things like out here at least, right? In the
Hmm.
US when you're 18, not a lot of families really emphasize college
Okay.
because, well, for one thing, it's crazy expensive in the US. And
Yeah.
contrary to what people believe, like not everyone there is like, shitting money. Um, it's very expensive. And there are people that I
Yeah.
know that like worked their asses off, literally trying to pay through their university without getting a loan because
Yeah.
loans just
Double
kill
and
you.
triple jobs.
Yeah, like holy shit, like mad respect to those people, right? But
Hmm.
here we're like, oh, you have to go to school, you have to graduate university. Everything
Yeah.
is like this. Is like, but why? Like you were saying, information is available at your fingertips, right?
Hmm.
If we applied that, right, a person with that kind of knowledge, let's say he gets some sort of online degree, right, and this
Hmm.
person learned purely online, and he's very good at what he's doing, and then you have someone that graduated from a physical university, but his experience isn't the same because that part of the world, for example, where we are, does not
Hmm.
emphasize too much on practicality. We So, well, truthfully, when I was in university, we're a lot more like in some majors, we're a little bit more theoretical than practical how we
Yeah,
see it.
true.
And unfortunately, in some universities, a lot of their facilities do not allow them to have practical practice.
Yeah,
So a lot of their focus is on the theory.
yeah.
Well, both of these guys in this case are theory based, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
one guy went to a university online and one dude went to a university that was unable to provide a physical location for practical experiments. So
Mm-hmm.
what you're looking at here now is the degree itself, right? Now, if you were an employer, which one would you pick,
Well, of course, the person that has more hands-on experience.
right? And in this case, the hands-on experience would come from the dude in a four-year university or a physical university, right? Just because he went there and actually learned. Well, quote unquote learned.
Yeah, quote unquote.
Not everyone learns in institutions, but yeah,
True.
like we're so focused. Like in some parts of the world, our minds are so focused. Like this person graduated from a physical university. This person graduated from. He didn't graduate. He got a certificate online. Is that even enough for some people? Well, for some it is. I mean, when you look at some examples, a lot of the most, you know, well, let's take Apple and Microsoft for example, right? Like the big debate, right? Oh, no, like these guys dropped out of college. Well, I know
Yeah.
Bill Gates did, and some of these guys just, didn't. They completed high school, but nothing else, and they created some of the most successful tech companies on the planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have someone else that's like, 4-year degree, does this, and then he ends up working for these people. Like, what sets them apart? Right? What's the point of university in some places or in some people's eyes? Like
Yeah.
if you're able to pump out the same knowledge as another person, like let's face it, books and everything, you can find them online, you can buy them, you can learn from it, and you can even, find people online to help you with that kind of stuff. I mean, this is what the internet is for.
True.
Like you can literally find someone that has really good knowledge in a lot of, like, let's say computer science stuff, programming, creating a website. I can't do
Mm-hmm.
that, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, to me it's a bunch of ones and zeros. I can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get some of it because I was a CS major for some time, but
Well, yeah.
everything else is like a blank. Like I have no idea what you're doing. And then it
Yeah.
turns out this person that's making a website never graduated from university, yet you pay
No.
him tons of money, right, to make
Mm-hmm.
a website. So like I feel in the sense of double standards, like we put too much emphasis on the idea of getting a degree from an institution, and that
Yeah.
kind of um, validates your working experience or your, not working experience. That validates your learning experience, and that
Mm-hmm.
validates you to be quote unquote qualified for something. Like just because I went to so and so university does not automatically mean you're ready to take on uh, massive problem let's say CERN, for example, right? You're
Yeah.
not ready to work on a nuclear submarine or whatever. Like it just hurts so much that, like, especially here, right?
It's all based on a piece of paper.
Yeah. Like here's the thing. We're always saying that like education helps you get places, but when access to education, or what we call high-end education, um, is limited to a very small percentage of people, are you
Yeah.
actually like part of the movement for like giving education to everybody? I mean,
Yeah.
here, when we look at it, one of the massive things that I notice in families and stuff like that, just like encountering parents and whatnot, as from being a teacher, is that for some reason they put more stock in foreign teachers than
Yeah.
local teachers. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. That's not just here. That's in many countries in the world where again, like we don't know where the origin of that came from.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, that's kind of actually relevant to what you just mentioned, where it would make us ask the question or begs the question, how would you then properly evaluate things? It should be based on actual skill, like the quality of something, or the quality of an action, rather than just what it is as in general image. Like when it comes to somebody having a certificate, that doesn't determine how skilled they are at something. You got to see them in action. Just like with teachers, it doesn't matter if you're from this country or another country, or if you're from Pluto. It depends on what you can actually do. So
Yeah.
yeah, true. A lot of parents are like, oh wow, the foreign teacher, they're great. Well, you got to what they should do then, I believe, for instance, is like maybe make a session where the parents go in and actually sit and see how the teacher teaches and how they do things. Or let's say if there's somebody you're hiring two engineers, one with a certificate and one, let's say, that just learn things on their own. Take them both, have an actual practical session with both of them, and then I guess there will be a better sense of evaluating them because in the field you would see who's better with what better experience. Yes,
Hmm.
you people would come to argue like, oh, some universities are better than others and people do have a better educational background. True, but again, you shouldn't make the certificate everything. True, I really do agree with that
Yeah.
because
It's a lot
it's
of
really,
reputation crap.
yeah, and it's expensive for a lot of people. Like, and not everybody can afford to go to university. Not everybody can afford such an education.
Yeah.
And even if they can, don't limit it to certain fields, and that's it. Oh, everybody has to be a doctor. Everybody has to be an engineer, or whatever. So,
You got to have
and
those titles, man.
yeah, and then you find like I was okay when I was in university. I stayed in a year in pharmacy. I was like, we are like 1,000 something people.
Hmm.
My class was literally 1,000 something people. I'm like, are all
Shit.
these people gonna open pharmacies or work in a medical company and be pharmacists? And I'm like, I bet you not, because there are too many people becoming pharmacists.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, I remember when I was working at, I think it was a call center way back when
Okay.
as like a summer job type thing.
Oh,
And
okay.
a lot of the people that I encountered that were working there or, applying and, in the group I was with in the training process, training group
Mm-hmm.
were doctors. Like they
Oh,
actually
okay.
graduated from a medical university. I'm like, what the fuck? Why don't you guys be doctors? And they're like, doctors don't pay enough. I was like, wait, what? And
Yeah.
like the instructor herself, she's like, yeah, I used to be a doctor, but they're giving us like pay, like terrible wages. And I'm like,
Yep.
you people are supposed to be like the healers, right? You
Yeah.
guys are supposed to help us survive and stuff like that. And you guys say you don't
Exactly.
get paid enough. It's like, yo, there's definitely something wrong there.
Yeah.
We're not emphasizing something enough, or we're not like focusing on something enough. Like that just to me
Yeah.
screams like just dogma. It's like do
Yeah.
this, or be this in order to get
Mhm.
respect. It's like, bro, you can get
Mhm.
respect by just doing something very well or having
Yeah.
knowledge in something. But a lot of people don't put stock in that. They're like, oh no, to be respected, you got to be a doctor. It's like, well, fuck you, man.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, and some people they take that the wrong way. They really just get air full of themselves just because they're a doctor or so on. Yeah,
Tell me
I
about it.
mean, uh, like I remember I had the situation where I was like, okay, Arabic is not really, I could speak Arabic, but not everything I know in Arabic because I studied in English. So
Mm.
I went to a doctor one time and he was explaining stuff and saying terms in Arabic. And I'm like, I don't get it. So I told him, can you please say it in English? He's like, what? Are you a doctor? I'm like, seriously?
What the
Am,
hell?
am I a doctor?
It's like
I'm like,
obviously not. I'm sorry, but I don't understand what you're saying.
yeah. Well, anyways.
No, see, the thing is, like, with position and title and stuff like that, I'm sure you've experienced this in teaching, like I have. You ever seen a parent come up to you and be like, "Do you know who I am?"
Oh, yeah. I've met stuff like that. Yeah. Yes, of course.
I swear, man, I love when people come up to you and say that kind of thing. It's like, should I? It's like, should I know you? It's like, I don't see your face on a billboard everywhere. Are you Tony Stark? Are you
Yeah.
like, are you a super famous person? Are you like the aide to the president? Are you like a minister or something? I don't know who you are. Obviously
Yeah.
not. Like, why
Yeah.
lead a conversation with like, do you know who I am? It's like, dude,
Yeah.
please.
Because of influence, man. People sometimes have too much. Either they believe they have too much influence, or they do have too much influence. Which
Yeah.
is relevant to that. I don't know. I hope I'm not going off topic. What should we call it? You said that you met people that were doctors and they're not doctors anymore. One
Mm.
time, my friend, his driver, I'm like, I thought he had like didn't have a certificate or had some like a certificate that wasn't good enough to have a good wage. But he's
Mm.
like, no, I'm an engineer. I'm like, what? You're an engineer and you're working as a driver. He's like, yeah, in my last year, I was supposed to get the certificate, but this professor, we had a disagreement and he told them, don't give me the certificate. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah,
Just
that's
because the
kind of weird.
professor had the power to do that, I was like, oh my God, this is bad.
That also reminds me, like way back when, there was a time where I was in a taxi. This is years ago. This is before Uber was even a thing, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
like, the old black and white taxis that are run down and shit,
Oh,
right?
wow. I forgot about those.
So I'm going home from my friend's place, and on the way, like, what was it, 10 minutes away from where I live, guy looks at me and he's like, "Do you know of any place that wants an English teacher?" And he said that in English, right? And I'm sitting there, I'm so shocked. Like, mind you, at the time, this is around, let's say 2008 or something, 2008, 2009. So
Okay.
my Arabic isn't that good. I've been in the country at that point for like 3 4 years, so I'm still in the
Oh,
process of learning a lot of conversational stuff or just like general terms. And I'm caught off guard in this taxi, and the guy's like, "Yo, do you know of anywhere that wants English teachers?" I'm like, "What?" And like I couldn't help but answer back in English. And like my friends and my parents always said like don't talk English in the taxis or something because something bad might happen. No, fuck that. I don't give a fuck. What's the worst that can happen? Well, okay, no, let's not say that. But but no, I talked to him, and the guy said, yeah, I'm a graduate of this place, and I'm a certified English teacher. I'm like, bro, why are you driving a taxi then? And he's like, not a lot of places will hire English teachers that aren't foreign. Yeah.
it's
So like,
it's well, but honestly, like I still have respect for people like that because even if he can't find a job,
mhm,
he uses or works with what he can find. It's
yeah.
better than just staying at home and doing nothing or going to beg or going to do or steal or anything. No, you just try to go for it. But I get you. I get you. Yeah. I mean, it's really bad that someone is qualified and they're not being hired just because there are certain standards or certain things that they're looking for
Yeah.
that don't make sense. So yeah.
It's like, I can get a job teaching English when my like my personal like spoken English is not that great in terms of like the way I speak it because it's like grammatically incorrect at times, and like my grammar is garbage. But I would get a
Yeah.
job over someone that actually was trained to teach English as a
Yeah.
second language simply
Yeah.
because I'm a foreigner. That's so fucked up. But like I don't know, like I feel like we just need to be more accepting or learn to broaden our horizons, if you will, or learn to, understand things, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, despite like whatever opinion we may have stated or state about all things, it's not like we're living every day despising and shunning everything and everyone like, oh my God, you are a vampire, get away. No, it's not like that. No, we're just saying what we actually think about things and what we truly think, like unadulterated. So,
Yeah.
but we of course, yeah, we are accepting of other things. We are dealing with. I mean, everybody has their own opinion, their own way of life. I mean, we're not gonna change people like that or change an entire country, even if we had magic powers, which is not the case. But
Yeah.
no. And again, we're human. We have our own flaws. We're not saying we're perfect and we have the answer to everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what's interesting about expressing your ideas and discussing things.
I mean,
Yeah.
let's face it, like if we're trying to get one major point across with this entire discussion, it's just be open to learning. Like
Yeah.
literally be open to learning more about other things. That's it.
Yeah.
Literally it.
Exactly.
Like throw out
Exactly.
your own little square frames of mind and
Yeah.
try and accept things, literally be like Bruce Lee, right? Only in the brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, that's literally what you have to do. I mean, if you need to read books or, take classes or whatever. I mean, I know some people that do take classes like that, and it helps. It's cool.
Oh, it does.
Not looking down on anything like that, but like, do whatever you need to do in order to like try and expand your mind.
Exactly.
That's literally all we here at Adulterated would like you to do.
Yep.
And with that, again, we're unadulterated. We tell you like it is. We tell it like it is, and hopefully you'll join us next time for when we discuss another topic. Till then,
Yep.
I've been Gerard.
And I'm Hisham. So take care.
Peace out, guys.
Bye.